All right, so this is a warping system. The way it works is you can just go anywhere in the world, and I'm going to set this as a reference point. You can see on the right-hand side it says warp 1, so this is going to be our first warp point. And to set it, we can just run the function set warp, and it will set our warp point here. Every time I teleport, I'm going to pause for a few seconds to let it load in because my recording software lags quite a bit when I do that. So I'll just be pausing for a few seconds afterwards. So I'm going to go to the world spawn here. Hopefully everything is loaded in enough. To teleport back, we just run the function warp warp. And as you can see, we're back at the first warp point. And then we can set more warp points as well, up to 16, though that can easily be expanded. Let's just go to some coordinates here, just entering in some numbers. I don't know, I'll go a little bit higher to be safe. And we spawned over a desert. It's still kind of loading in. I'll drop down here. And this works on slabs as well. Just place a slab here. And then we can go ahead and set our warp to 2. And run the function. Set our warp point. And then we can go back to the world spawn. Let that load in. Okay. And then to go back, we just run warp warp again. And as you can see, we're back on the slab. Still kind of loading in. Hopefully it's not lagging. And then if we go ahead and set our warp score back to 2, or sorry, back to 1, we can go back to our first warp point. As you can see, our first warp point is loaded back in. We're on this same block. And this has a range of about -8 million to +8 million for both the X and Z, and then 0 to 256 for the Y. Anywhere outside of -8 million to +8 million is pretty much unplayable. The world starts acting really strange, so there's no real need to be able to set warp points there. And then the way this works, let me just go to some random coordinates here. I'm going to enter some decimal places. I'll just go to, I'll enter it a little bit higher. And then, whoops, oh, that's fine. Let this load in. All right, so hopefully that loaded everything. We can go ahead and run the function pause. As you can see on the right-hand side, we're going to get some values there. Now, the two numbers on the right of X, Y, and Z are the decimal place. You can see our X is 125.23. So it's off by about 0.01. Our Y should be 192.24, which is correct. And then Z should be -127.12, which is also correct. If we move around a little bit, we can run the function again. It'll update. So our X is 147.20. And our Z is -122.25, and then our Y value did not change at all. And then let me go to the world spawn over here. So these blue blocks here are what store each warp point. As you can see that there's 16 slots here, so they can hold up to 16 different warps. This can easily be doubled just by adding a few more commands. These blue will store the coordinate that the player set the warp in. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it for the warping system. There's one other small mechanic that I added here. So this red pillar, if I go ahead and let me actually just set a warp point to get rid of those coordinates on the side. So if I go ahead and set a radius score to 2000, so that's actually 20.00, and then we run the function spread, we'll be spread within a 20 block radius. It's a square radius of this red pillar here. See, we're spread there. We can go ahead and run it again. Spread right here. It's pretty much just the spread players command, except you can change the value to change the distance in which the player is spread. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the